Hello to all our viewers. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. I am Christopher Nudo, and I am an estate planning and real estate attorney that serves the Chicago metro area with offices in Arlington Heights and Elgin, Illinois. I also meet with people virtually these days as that has become a thing since our global pandemic. Today, I'm here to discuss the benefits and nuances of estate planning for police officers and first responders, but really focused today on the police officer specifically. Now, to give you a little background on why I selected this topic today. For quite some time, our police officers really have not been shown the respect they deserve in our local communities and truly have been under attack. And what we have learned since the onset of COVID is that police officers and other first responders have really gone above and beyond the call of duty and really need to be recognized for the heroic actions that they have put forth for us during this past year. And really recognizing that they have been doing this all along, but that we've really come to appreciate it more recently. Whether it is, keeping our streets safe, so our children can be outside and play, or whether they are battling the front lines during this global pandemic, police officers, firemen, doctors, nurses, EMTs have really taught us that we've taken these folks for granted. And so the little bit that I can offer here with regard to estate planning and helping is my little way of giving back. Now, when it comes to estate planning, there are some unknown benefits as it relates to police officers that I can share here with you. I have saved time to address questions at the end, so feel free to comment in the section below, and I'll be sure to respond with the best answers or guidance that I can provide. So here's kind of our agenda for today. How is estate planning different for police officers? The critical components of an estate plan, will, trust, and really more importantly, what is this thing that we call estate planning? Why is it essential to have these estate planning documents in place? And what to look for when working with an estate planning lawyer. So these are going to be the agenda topics that we're going to go through. So let's just kind of jump right in, shall we? So let's start with estate planning. Estate planning is a collection of documents that we prepare that are designed to protect your family from death and or incapacity. And a proper estate plan is going to really encompass your family values. It's going to meet the goals of your family with regard to its size and its makeup. Not all families are created equal. We have single parent households. We have dual parent households. We have minor children. We have adult children. We have children that are disabled and have special needs. And all of these nuances come together and define your family. Additionally, each family is made up of different spiritual aspects, and whether that's your faith or what you believe in and what drives your family, those things play a critical role in your family values as well. Police officer families tend to be more complex than the average family due to the stress on the job. And I was noting that a study of police officers in Buffalo, New York, found that the life expectancy of the average officer was significantly lower than the average American. Police officers face not only inherent risks of line of duty death, but also an overall reduced life expectancy. And I'm no doctor, but I truly attribute that to just the daily stress that having to care for the public puts on a person. Because to be a police officer really does demonstrate that you care for others in the way that you're out there performing your job for the care of others. And that inherently is stressful and I believe affects life expectancy. What I have really found is that police officers deserve the peace of mind that comes from knowing that their families are put together with regard to their personal and financial affairs before they hit the streets. Wouldn't it be nice to, before you went to work, know that you have done your very best to put all of the pieces in place that, God forbid, something should happen to you while on the job, that your wife, your husband, your children, your family is cared for in the very best way that you can do. According to Daniel McKenna, president of the Wills for Heroes Foundation, did you know this? A majority of police officers do not even have a basic will in place. And we're gonna, with this video, we're gonna try and educate you and encourage you so that you are not one of those statistics that say that you don't have your estate plan done. Now, what are some of the nuances of police officers that make estate planning for them unique? Number one, you work in an environment that can be dangerous. It is also a very litigious culture. You're in a job where people can accuse you of wrongdoing, excuse me, and you want to protect yourself from wrongful accusations. Excuse me. There are incredible legislative pressures, like the current House Bill 3653, which most law enforcement here in Illinois is familiar with, which has the potential to create liability for an officer, and that would not be good for police officers. Be very careful on the words I choose there, but those officers that have read House Bill 3653 know the inherent dangers that some of the language in there can do for you on the job. Also, here's a fact that I didn't know until I researched it, is a lot of police officers are single and or single parents. And so that creates a unique situation for planning as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on different ways that we can put together a plan for you. Now, when we talk about estate planning, we're going to talk about documents that could be like trusts or wills, or powers of attorney. And when we talk about trusts, we're talking about living trusts that are also known as revocable trusts. We're talking about land trusts for real estate, a unique vehicle available to us here in Illinois. We're talking about irrevocable trusts, such as the life insurance, irrevocable life insurance trust, also called an ILIT. We're talking about financial and property powers of attorney. And, you know, here's something I really wish to point out is that, you know, our powers of attorney here in Illinois for finances and for healthcare, they are statutory forms. And what does that mean? That means that you can go to the internet and Google the form itself and fill in the blanks. But I just want to share with you, when it comes to the power of attorney for property and finances, not all are created equal. And so if you're Googling a form and doing a do-it-yourself kind of fill in the blank, just know that you're getting truly the minimum benefit from that, because a good estate planning lawyer has made a much better, robust version of that statutory form. So those are the tools that we will use to accomplish the goals of estate planning. Now, what are some of these goals for police officers that we want to touch on? Well, asset protection and asset preservation, avoidance of probate, avoidance of guardianship, low cost and easy administration versus the high cost and long time frame of administration that comes from probate and guardianship. There's income tax considerations, estate tax considerations, especially today with the legislative concerns coming from Washington and the adjustment of taxes, and the development for your family of wise estate distribution strategies for young children. And so let's kind of get into some of these things. I did have one thing I wanted to note with regard to asset protection, if I can find it, although maybe I didn't print it. That's all right. I know it by heart. So Illinois does not have an asset protection statute by nature. A few states in our union do, such as Alaska, Nevada, Delaware, but Illinois is not one of them. And so we can implement some strategies to create a form of asset protection. But Illinois does have a law that's called the Fraudulent Transfers Act. And the Fraudulent Transfer Act prohibits transfers that would hinder, delay, or defraud a known creditor. And so when we are doing our planning, what we're really doing to really get the benefits of asset protection is we're planning for an unknown event in the future. If the event has already occurred, then that ship has already sailed and we can't adequately plan for it due to the Fraudulent Transfer Act. So, let's talk specifically for a moment about the unique nature of an estate plan that we could develop for a husband and wife, where one of the spouses is a police officer. One of the unique ways that we can accomplish an asset protection, which is to protect the legacy that the two of you have built over the years, is to isolate assets. And if what we do is we will create an estate plan for both of you, but we will heavily fund or transfer the assets of the family to the spouse that is not the police officer. Thereby, the police officer will have very little ownership in the family assets, and the non-police officer will be the owner of the majority of assets. That type of isolation, when done appropriately with the correct documents, creates a form of asset protection and is really uniquely used for people in occupations that are high risk. Specifically here, we're talking about people in law enforcement. Now, you say that you are single, so you don't have the spouse. That's okay, because when you are single, your values are different than when you're married, and we can appropriately plan for your estate plan using different methods, not necessarily the isolation method as just identified, but we can discuss how the values and goals of you being not married can impact the way we design your estate plan. Also, very common is that we will have couples where they're not necessarily married, but they are living their life together. And it's really important that without the proper trust and other documents put together in an estate plan, your significant other could be left behind should a tragedy occur while you're on the job or even not on the job. In Illinois, we do not recognize common law marriage. And common law marriage is where two people have otherwise lived together for a sufficient amount of time where it would be considered that they are married. Illinois does not recognize that. So you could live with somebody for 30 years and not be married, and you will not get any of the benefits that come from marriage because Illinois does not have this common law marriage law. So let's talk about, let's go back to our goals. And one of the goals that we talked about was the avoidance of probate. Now, if something should happen to you, and when we say something should happen, we're really talking about if you should die, right? It's kind of a difficult thing to talk about, but the reality is that estate planning is really designed for death and incapacity. So let's just talk about death for a moment. If you should die and your estate not be properly planned, then your estate can end up in probate. What is probate? Probate is the mechanism that Illinois has to offer for your assets to get transferred to your heirs. Who are your heirs? Well, they could be your children, could be your spouse, could be your parents, could be your siblings. It depends, right? It depends on what the family looks like and the family dynamics. Now, probate is handled through our judicial system. So we would be in the court system of the county where you resided when you died. And so I am sitting in Cook County right now, so we would be downtown at the Daily Center, or we would be on some Daily Center Zoom call, and that's the way probate would be handled. Now, what are the reasons that we like to avoid probate? Well, first and foremost, it's really expensive. I like to say that the average cost of probate in the Chicago metro area can be between $12,000 and $18,000. That includes the costs of bonds and legal fees and court costs and publication, and many, many other things go into those. But at the end of the day, that is a very expensive process. It also is very time consuming. The average probate lasts about 12 to 14 months. Some last much longer. And let me just tell you a real tragedy. If you die and you leave minor children behind, even if you are married, those minor children, without a proper plan in place, will inherit some of your assets through probate. If they are under the age of 18, then not only do we have to open a probate for your estate, but we have to open a guardianship for your minor children. So now you have double the costs, because not only do we have one court proceeding that we need to be involved in, but now we have a second proceeding just for the care of your assets that would go to your minor children. This is regardless of whether you're married or you're single. So you're like, well, no, their surviving mom will take care of it. Their surviving dad will take care of it. No, not necessarily. Very, very common without a plan that we have to have this dual proceeding occur. Huge tragedy, in my opinion, due to the cost and time. So we want to avoid probate. We want to avoid guardianship. How do we do that? Well, we do that with proper estate planning. And when we're doing it for you officers who are on the front line, we're going to do it with a mind towards also designing a plan that does asset protection for you. All of this administrative cost also comes with another price. It's all in public. And I know you police officers have all been in court, and and if you've been on Zoom court, you know that these are incredibly public forums. Everybody can hear everybody else's business. And if we avoid probate, then we avoid your family being exposed to this public kind of forum. All right, what are some other things that we should be considering? Well, I like to consider the development of a plan for distribution for your children. I don't know about you and your family, but I know about me and my family. And when I was younger, maturity didn't start to develop in a real adult way until after I was 25 years old. And I have two boys, and they are amazing, and they are maturing like great young men. But I see a similar track for them, where they really will get to a sense of adulthood when they are getting closer to age 25. Now, I do know that females tend to mature a little sooner, but all in all, I would say that the first signs of real adulthood maturity is around age 25. Now, why am I making this point? I'm making this point because age of majority here in Illinois is 18. And 18 is the age in which most people would consider children to become adults and to get adult privileges. But we all know that at age 18, we just haven't developed all the keen senses and awarenesses necessary to make really good financial decisions. Despite the fact that we might think we can, us adults who have been many years beyond the age of 18 know that's not necessarily the case. So I like to develop for your family a distribution strategy. And if you should die and your children inherit your assets while they're still under the age of 25, we will build in trusts for your children, individual trusts for each child, so that somebody can help manage their decision making and the spending of money through the age of 18, 20, 22, 25, 28, 30, maybe even 35 and 40, depending on the size of your estate. Now, some of you may say, Chris, that is way too conservative for me. I'm not even 40 and I know I'm an adult and I can manage my affairs. And I appreciate that. I truly do. And that's why I say that planning for each family is a unique exercise, an exercise where we sit down, we talk about your family dynamic structure, and we plan it accordingly. So I've outlined here just a few things with regard to the estate planning model for police officers and why it's a unique environment. And what I want to do now is, there's a few of you who have joined us a little later during this video. And so I'm going to just do a quick recap and let's get to some of your questions. Again, my name is Christopher Nudo, and I'm the founding partner of an estate planning firm here in the Chicago metro area, having offices in Arlington Heights and Elgin, Illinois. I really enjoy serving our community. And today's program is really focused on the police officer, and truly that extends out to all of our first responders. But today, focusing on the police officer. If you missed my last session, you can always catch the video right here on our Facebook page. And last time I explained the real estate process and the buying, selling of real estate here in Illinois. It's a real excellent overview for anybody not familiar with that process. We also welcome you to join us here every Friday at 8 a.m. Central Time, where we share tips and legal guidances for parents, guardians, and other professionals. Now, a bunch of you have entered a whole bunch of questions here on my computer, and let's try and get to some of these real quick. All right. First question, are there different life insurance plans for police officers or first responders that you recommend? Okay, first of all, I am not an insurance agent, but I do really like life insurance and other products. And I'm going to speak to you just not as an attorney, but just as somebody who owns a lot of these products. I own a lot of whole life life insurance. I own term life insurance, and I do own a number of annuities. So I'm familiar with them as a purchaser of the product. And I will tell you this, police officers, when we like to, police officers need to establish products that are free from creditor attachment. That's where creditors can attack the asset itself. And there, life insurance, endowment policies, annuities, all tend to be exempt from creditor attacks. Now, what kind of life insurance and annuities and stuff fit you best? Well, that's not for me to say, but I can definitely refer you to the professionals that I work with on a regular basis who can give you that proper information. But I will tell you, it's an excellent question, that there are products out there that are exempt from creditor attacks. And those are some examples. If I don't have any children, how would my estate plan work? You know what? I understand that most people will plan their estate for their children. But what you're really saying here is my estate looks differently, so my values for my estate are different than somebody who has a family with children. I get that. I totally get that. And that's why it's so important that when you sit down with an estate planning lawyer, we first set forth who you are as a person and what is important to you and what are your goals and what are your values and what are those things that we're trying to accomplish so that when we're complete, you can go to work having the peace of mind that we have done the very best for you and you have done the very best for yourself. And so whether it's taking your assets and making sure they go to a proper charity or making sure they go to possibly the police foundation or they go to your parents or your siblings or your best friend, or you know what, maybe you don't have children, but you have that significant other that you've been with for years and years, and you want to make sure that they're taken care of. Again, you know, that these are all different values that each one of those decisions would impact. So if you don't have children, that's okay. We can still do a really good job at planning your estate and implementing the unique nature of the fact that you are a police officer. That's an excellent question. What's our next question? I am on disability due to an accident in the field. What is my family entitled to if I pass away? First of all, I so respect that. My cousin is a former police officer, and she was injured on the job and is on disability, and a lot of respect goes out to you folks. So there's a couple aspects of this. Number one, most police officers are part of the pension program, and you know, that pension program is free from creditor attacks, but that program may not have a benefit that goes to the next generation. Typically, these benefits transfer only to a surviving spouse. Now, I don't want to use a blanket statement because different pension programs are unique in the way they're implemented, and so I don't want to say they're all the same. But then we really get into the other types of planning that we can do that take into consideration your disability. And I'm careful in the words I say here because everybody's disability is unique. And so the planning we do is going to be very focused on you, your disability, and your family. I hope that is an adequate answer, but it's difficult. Just know that your disability will not hinder our ability to plan for you adequately and accomplish the peace of mind necessary through the estate planning process. So, how much does it cost to work with an estate planning attorney? I think I'm going to combine the next two questions. And what is the difference between working with a lawyer and doing the paperwork myself online? So, I'm very appreciative of the fact that attorneys are very expensive. We are. And I think any attorney who doesn't recognize that the money they charge for their service is a lot is kidding themselves. Now, I'm not saying that the service isn't worth the fee that is paid, but what I'm saying is it's expensive. No different than many other trades out there are expensive. And so when hiring an attorney, you need to make sure that the attorney you're hiring is going to give you full value for that dollar that you're investing in your family. And there are significant pitfalls to doing it yourself. More and more websites are popping up with the do-it-yourself estate planning model. And can I tell you that there are dangers in using those websites? The danger is not in the documentation that is being produced through these websites. The documentation that is available to people through the do-it-yourself methods is very basic, but typically there's nothing flawed with it. But it's very basic and does not take the time to learn about your family and address your family goals and plan appropriately. And may I add, as a law enforcement officer, none of these do-it-yourself websites are going to take the time to uniquely put together a plan that addresses the concerns and risks that are involved in your occupation as it applies to estate planning. Where the do-it-yourself model fails most often is in the execution of the documents. And this is what people don't recognize, is that if the documents are not executed with their proper formality necessary, and these documents do have extremely unique formality necessary in their execution, then when it's time to use the documents, which by the way means that you have died, then this is when we find out that the documentation that you put together doesn't work. And it's too late to fix it because you've already died. And so I have great concern with the do-it-yourselfers. I would just say this, find a lawyer who's sensitive to whom you are as a police officer, and find one that will work with you at a price point that works for you and your family to ensure that the proper care is taken and the proper plan is designed. We certainly don't want to cut corners because of costs. What we want to do is we want to recognize you, plan accordingly, and do it in a very cost-effective way for your family. I know, long kind of roundabout answer. I just wanted to really give you my heart with regard to fees and your family. Do you offer virtual appointments or on-site visits? The answer is yes. I love meeting with people in person. I am a people person. I love meeting with you here on Facebook, and but I also don't mind the virtual appointments. I understand that we all have busy schedules. I understand our kids keep us running around, and so meeting you online through like a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, or just you coming to my office and me getting to know you is my privilege, and I offer both services. Where can I contact you for a consultation? Well, on the screen here, we have these banners, and we have telephone numbers where you can call, you can text. My address comes up on one of these banners. Oh, look at that. And although the zip code's cut off on my Elgin office, but you know, we can live with that. These are the multiple ways that you can get a hold of me. And, you know, in unique circumstances where you want to meet with me in person and you can't make it to my office, I even will come to you, because I truly believe that we shouldn't let these little things stand in the way of properly taking care of your family. Now let's just kind of start to wrap up here. I know I had one little point here that I hadn't mentioned yet. So this is a great point that I found on the internet, but it really summarizes the planning process. It says, when you take the initiative to prepare for that unforeseeable, unfortunate event, you and your family will have, and I've mentioned this how many times, the peace of mind knowing that you've created an estate plan to address your wishes and concerns.
I just think that's so important, that peace of mind. I haven't focused a lot on asset protection or all the nuances surrounding it, but know that that is a key component that we will get into much more detail on when I meet with you in person and plan your estate plan for you. Um, Listen, I want to thank you so much for all of your questions. I cherish the opportunity to earn your trust and work with you and your family in the future. Um, Listen, like everything in life that is done right, it's a process and it takes a little bit of time. I encourage you to reach out and let's start that discussion. Um, it really would be my pleasure to serve your family. I invite you to join me here again on Facebook Live, Fridays, 8 a.m. Central Time. Please, please, please invite your friends, your family, and share the recordings. That's the reason I do it. I just want to make it easy for you and others to get this information. Give it to your family, your friends, your colleagues. And really, I hope to see you here again next week. God bless and have a wonderful week.